Hello and welcome to Promenade Culture Center. This is Culture Corner. We bring you the authentic stories of creative individuals. Our guest today is Reem Shatti, a creative entrepreneur. Reem, warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on this
So happy to have you here
podcast.
today. I have to tell you, I'm glad we chose a title because there are so many things that you are doing, so many fields that you are active in, that we must start with a story of multipotentialists and how they survive the day. I have first heard of you as a fencer. You are an illustrator, a skater, an entrepreneur. There is a lot, and you're marvelous at it. I want to ask you if you could share with us how early did you discover the talents within, and how do you juggle them?
Okay, so to make things clear to everyone, I did not pursue all these four things at the same time.
Okay.
I was not a skater, fencer, entrepreneur, architect all at the same time, at the same capacity. These were passions that I pursued in different periods of my life. So it's not realistic. There's 24
Mm,
hours in a day, 7 days a week,
yeah.
365 days in a year. You can't be all of that at the same time. That's not
And
realistic. But I did have periods in my life where some of these took front row seat.
mm,
At most, I would be doing two things at once.
hmm.
That was like the most realistic thing. But the thing that was consistent throughout the years is art. I think that
Hmm.
was the thing that
That's the
was there.
under layer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. So yeah.
Do you think they sometimes you sometimes compete with yourself?
Yeah. Actually, that's like my biggest issue. I mean, yeah, people talk about, perfectionism, but I think I really began to grow. If we're going to talk about, like my technical skills and like in illustrating, when I was training to be a professional illustrator and I did freelance illustration for about 3 to 4 years, I was only when I realized, or like I was in the mindset that I don't have to be the best. I don't have to like create art at like this image in my head where like I
Hmm.
really wanted to be I wanted my technical skills in art to be a certain way. When I let go of all of those expectations is when I actually began to improve and flourish and really enjoy my art.
I was wondering about fencing, which we have
Yes.
mentioned in the beginning. And you've been a fencer since very young age?
No. I
No? Mm,
started fencing as an adult, well, a young adult.
mm.
Basically the moment I got a car. Okay, let's just
Okay.
let's just put it that
So
way.
young age, not very
So,
young. Okay.
when I was 18, when
Mm-hmm.
I first got a car, when I, went to college because well, before that, it was quite unfortunate. My family was not able to give me the opportunity to pursue a sport in my
Mm-hmm.
childhood. So when I was able to get a car, the first thing that came to my mind, I need to do a sport because this is what I always wanted to do. And I know that the options in Kuwait were limited. Were limited. Sorry, I'm too far from the mic.
Yeah.
Were limited at the time, but I remember seeing fencing somewhere and I was like, I wanted to pursue the sport. I thought it was very interesting and yeah, so I went for it. Yeah.
And this, as any sport, it requires dedication, it requires time. And for a young person to decide that at 18,
Mm.
that might also mean you're putting some other things aside and so on. So I'm just wondering, since you're still in the sport, how much of a, passion it requires and what drives you?
So to make things clear, I'm not a competitive fencer anymore. I exist in the world of fencing right now as a academy owner. I co-own the academy with my husband Khalid, House of Fencing, which is like my pride and joy. I love, what we do at House of Fencing. It really was a passion project and something that I really didn't expect myself to do at any point in my life. Like if I were to go to 18-year-old me who had just started fencing and shown her a picture
Yeah.
of like me 12, 13 years later with a private fencing academy, it would have like blown my mind. I was like, where, how? Like how could that happen? Um but
But it's happening.
yes, it's happening. So I exist, in the world of fencing as a academy co-owner. I also do the graphics for House of Fencing, with the help of my graphic designer Miriam. She helps me so much since since she joined the House of Fencing team. But really, we've really built House of Fencing from scratch. The first 3 years I did coach, but after those 3 years, the academy grew, the responsibilities grew, so we brought in, a coach, and now I do administrative work and also like creative work for the academy, like designing the t-shirts, building the websites, and so on and so forth, and content.
It's a special family. I by chance know it, know how things function, or at least how they used to.
Yes,
When
we
when
miss
we were
Gregor.
involved with the yeah, thank you. With when we were involved, one of my kids with your school, it's an amazing space for children. They are heard, they are seen.
Yes,
So I'm sure that besides the love for fencing, this also brings a lot to you. At the same time, requires a lot from you and the
yes,
coaches. And
yes.
you will forever be known as Coach Reem, in our house.
They
So that,
still they still
yeah,
call me Coach Reem, even
yeah,
though I'm not actually coaching. Like in the past season, I
yeah.
haven't coached, but the kids call me Coach Reem. I'm like, okay, all right.
I think that's just absolutely wonderful. It is. It's a lot of work, right? But a lot of a beautiful work with children. Do you see them like grow and flourish and
Yes, and
just overtake, challenge, face obstacles?
we are so proud of them. To see them grow, and they grow physically.
Yeah,
Like they physically get taller
it
like
just
season
changed
by season.
tremendously, right?
But also to see them grow, technically in the sport of fencing. I remember like some of our fencers, like their first season of competitions, they would go in, they might not place a medal, or they're not at a very good technical level. Some of them might be demotivated, and then 2 seasons later, they're on the podium. They're a national team. They are traveling, outside of Kuwait for those opportunities. And I'm really happy that we're able to give them this opportunity. Really, it's something that it's why we do what we do. If we're not able to, I want to give them what I wasn't able to get at the time.
It's a bit of
Specifically,
a healing moment for you.
yes, to provide a supportive environment for the fencers, specifically for the girls. Yeah.
While you were still in sport, I was just wondering about that moment. While you were still also a competitive a fencer, are there a lot of things that sort of need to be enhanced, supported, changed? How did you feel as a sports person at one point of time?
This is
It's a long
like,
story,
wow,
probably, and
how
we're
do
not
we
gonna,
condense
yeah,
12 years
and
into
we're
a
not
45-minute
going to
podcast?
just focus on that. There's so much more. But I am wondering because sport is so important, so
It
incredibly
is.
important. My mother was a gymnast, and she sort of demanded in a really nice, soft manner that we're always in some sort of movement or some sort of
Yes.
sport. I'm not that type of person, but I've kept that idea going, and I've engaged with sports in different ways throughout life. But I'm adamant that my children will do it. They hang around with friends. They do something very good for their body. They
Yes.
learn a lot of skills. It's incredible regarding team play, facing your fears, understanding where your boundaries
Yeah.
are, and so on.
Absolutely.
So this is what I'm curious about actually. What did you find out about yourself through that experience? How
Wow.
much it built
Uh,
you in a way?
oh man. If I'm going to be, and I have to be honest, honestly, because if I'm being completely honest about my journey as a fencer versus, like as a fencing academy
Yeah.
owner, as a fencer, I'll be honest, it was miserable. It was not, I wouldn't consider my experience in fencing as a fencer here to be a positive one. I'll be lying if I said that it was a positive experience. And sometimes I look back and I think, why did I allow myself to be in that place for so long, and I think I was just such a stubborn person, and I wanted to prove that I can survive and make meaning out of all of the things that happened, that tried to basically erase my existence as a fencer. The majority of my years now, if okay, to put things in context,
Yeah.
because this is not the situation right now, and fencing for women right now is a lot more recognized, is
Yeah.
a lot more organized, a lot more supportive. It's still not the best, but it is nothing compared to early 2010s fencing for women in Kuwait. There was no official team, there was no official
Mm.
body, and so I there was the first 4 or 3 years of me fencing, I had to, it's almost like fencing in secret. And if I were too loud, that I would have to leave that fencing hall. So a lot of times I was threatened that fencing would be taken away from me if I was too loud or demanded something more than just training in the fencing hall. And I wanted to compete,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah. As I think anyone in sports
Yeah.
dedicated
Yeah,
wants
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you see now now that you're a part of and thank you for sharing this with us. Now that you're a part of something different, that you have built something yourself within the same sport, how do you feel about the future of fencing generally, but also like from your perspective?
Right now, like I said,
Mm.
like the situation right now is a lot more organized, is a lot more, it is more positive. Like at the time when I used to fence, there was no competition locally for uh female fencers, for women fencers. Now there is, like, for the last 4 or 5 years, there has been like a local fencing league for the ladies, for women's fencing. um, is it the best? Still needs a lot of work, because it's like the body has, you know um the Kuwait Fencing Association has like only recently like organized this. But at the same time, like, sports in Kuwait is so, it's so interesting, because there are periods in history where there was a women's team, and then there are periods in history where there wasn't, and then it comes back again, and then it disappears. This,
The
it's so,
consistency is what, yeah.
interesting. Like, I know in the 90s there was, in the 2000s there was, but then in the 2010s there was nothing. And I wish, if, a lot of things that happen in sports in Kuwait, I wish if there was like better or more organized historical documentation, um because there's some things that people just don't mention. But yeah, in terms of a women's team, there are periods where it existed, and then it disappeared, and then it comes back. Right now it's here, okay, but in the 2010s when I used to fence, it was not there.
The girls are interested in sports, and you see a lot of them in your academy.
Yeah.
Are the numbers even?
In
Boys, girls?
in
Yes.
my academy, in my
Yeah.
academy, it is mostly the ladies, but we
Okay.
do have, boys, and
Mm.
we are open to everyone. But generally, and I'll tell you why there are more girls in not just my academy. So before, just so you can have an idea of how sports operates in Kuwait, I think before 2019, before 2018, the idea of private sport clubs or private academies was simply non-existent. Mostly, or at least in the sport of fencing. So I don't know about other sports. I don't want to speak for other sports. But I've also seen the same trend with other sports. Uh, Before that, it was mostly government-owned or public clubs, and those clubs are very male dominated, and a lot of politics plays into these clubs, and so women are not allowed to sign up in these clubs. Or if they do exist in these clubs, it's so hush hush. Nobody talks about it, like how it was, the situation
Yeah.
was with me. They can't even like sign me up officially with that club, because it was basically for the guys.
Yeah.
Um, and then, okay, so then I want to learn fencing. Well, there are like 2 or 3 other women's uh sports clubs in Kuwait that are like government owned, but they don't have fencing. The sports are much more limited. So what are you going to do? So what happened is that in public clubs, because it's a mostly like male dominated space, now some parents don't want to put their girls there.
Oh.
Okay. It really is. And I remember like going into the fencing hall, it was, and yeah, when I used to train, the majority of the time, I would be the only girl in the fencing hall. There were a few other fencers that came in, but the majority of the time, I was the only girl in the hall, and it was just not a safe environment for women. It's not even safe. So a lot of parents, they're like, we don't want to put our girls in this kind of space, and I totally understand it. Um, and not only that, these clubs won't even like officially sign these girls
I
up because
understand.
it's for the boys. So that's why they when private academies began to open, it's mostly girls signing up. Okay, they're much more family friendly, safe. They are safe spaces.
Yes.
you know it's and they're not, because they're private academies, they're not as entangled with politics that happen in government clubs. Yeah.
I understand that. And creating of safe spaces is has literally become a part of each of our jobs, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
to make sure that safe space is created for people to just come and enjoy it and not feel threatened in any way, can thrive and so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it goes equally for culture and arts as it does for sport, I guess. Um, to focus on for a moment on one of the other things that are interesting about you, you are an architect.
Yes, ma'am.
And why did you study architecture? I'm curious. We have in this podcast interviewed, I think, a lot of architects. Some of them do not practice and have just, done the
Me being
college.
one of them.
But you did work as an architect for a period of
I
time,
did,
right?
and I worked in the public sector, but
Mm-hmm.
that work was really more like supervision. And also, I got employed in COVID, so everything was kind of stuck in
Okay,
limbo.
that's a
So,
different
so it was just
environment.
1 year and a half of like actually supervising, some projects, with the government. But it wasn't any design work. It was just observing how projects, the pipeline of how like projects, tenders kind of like go through the government, and how like engineering firms kind of apply to like build a project. And it was more like that, but it was not like designing anything.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of like the situation with government jobs.
How did you end up in architecture in
Okay.
the first place? That's
when I grad
always an interesting story.
when I graduated from high school, and guys, I didn't go to a private high school. I went to public school. All right.
Okay.
um honestly, ideally, I wanted to go into graphic design and animation. Family did not approve, naturally. And unfortunately, I was not allowed, even though this was something that I really wanted to even like pursue these things outside of Kuwait. Like I did have a more traditionalist family. Um, so then I was looking at what was available in Kuwait at the time, because I studied architecture in KU. And I remember uh, my high school classmate, and I love her. Her name is Miriam. She's a doctor now. I don't have her, I don't have her social media, but last I heard of her, she went into med school, and this girl was really smart. She sat next to me. She knew that I was an artist, and she was like, Reem, there's this thing called architecture. And she's like, I know people in that program, they do creative things, and when you graduate, they call you muhandisa.
Oh,
They call you an engineer. You get to do all of these fun things, but you're gonna work hard. She was like, it's not a joke. You get to be creative, but when you graduate, they call you muhandisa.
yes.
Like, which is like the dream for
Yeah.
a lot of Kuwaiti families. It's kind of like a dictator or muhandis,
Yes,
like an
yes.
architect or engineer or a lawyer. Okay, or a doctor. So I was like, this is great. Okay, this is like this path in the middle where I get to appease Kuwaiti family
Yeah.
standards because I was a good student, and actually like delve into something creative. And I applied to get into the architecture program. I didn't. My GPA was not high enough. I got into engineering, but then I was so insistent that I wanted architecture. So I worked hard to really raise my GPA in college, and I was able to transfer. And so
Okay.
when I got my seat in architecture school, I was like so proud of it. I was like, I worked hard for this. I really wanted this.
It's almost as if, the dream is there.
Yes, yes, yes. So I was really happy that I was able to make it. And there were people around me that were like, you can't raise your GPA that much in college. It's impossible. You're not going to be able to transfer to architecture. And I did it. I did it.
Good for you. Good for you.
I did
Was
it.
it really a substitute for art, though?
Uh,
Because architecture is tough and it's very technical in so many ways.
if you're talking about finding a job in the art market, they don't ask for your degree. Like if you wanted to work at any studio, any art or creative studio, there I've never come across, when I was doing freelance illustration, I never came across a studio, not even like big studios in the States, that were like asking for a degree. Most of them ask for a portfolio.
Yeah.
They ask for a portfolio. That is what matters to them more so than a degree. So if you studied architecture, you probably know the basics of design. You've taken art classes,
Yeah.
also graphic design. So it's like, yes, you perhaps, you might not be familiar of how certain things work in the entertainment industry. Like if you, let's say you want to be a 3D animator, okay, architecture, you might not specialize in that, but it gives you the tools to open that door for you. It gives you like it teaches you how to design almost anything, like the base, like the fundamentals of design, the basics of design. That's why a lot of us, when we graduate, we suddenly go into other creative fields, because we are taught like these tools, when we are in school. And so when we graduate, we don't necessarily go into practice or go into firms. We use those skills in other creative fields.
The birth of your art, so to speak. So art was always present. It was always part of you. You've probably always practiced in a way. But can you pinpoint that moment when art has really become something that you realize is now too strong to just sort of?
There was not a moment where I
Mm.
where I realized it. It always was. It always was, since I was young. I remember being 7 or 8 years old, and I was making comics at the time. I was drawing these little comics, and I love storytelling, and I still do. And I used to draw all the time. And it was something that's so innate. I didn't even have to discuss it. And I remember having an exceptional, a bit of a talent for it, because like in art class at school, like the teachers would stop at my desk and be like, wow, that's something that's a little more extra than the other than the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
students. And I'd be like, yeah, I know. Not really. Well, that's a joke. um but basically,
But those are the good
yeah,
moments,
yeah, yeah,
when you feel you can do it.
my art teachers, at that age, they really showed me that, okay, I think I got a special something for art. I never took it seriously until after I graduated architecture and decided to go into freelance illustration. That was in 2020, and I was taking art classes in art schools, and at some point I spent a summer in Los Angeles just to see how the entertainment industry was like. I was at Noman School of VFX for a summer, and I took a few art courses there. It was a very interesting experience.
Hmm.
Um, but at that point, I took my art to a professional level, because talent alone doesn't take you anywhere. If you don't hone it, and if you don't like uh basically take the time to learn it as if you were a beginner and you were not talented. Yeah, for me, talent can only get you so far, honestly. Like you need to be trained as if you are a beginner. Even if you're doing art or design. Yeah.
How would you call your art? What do you do?
Right now, in the past year and a half, I've been illustrating a graphic novel.
And we want to talk about that large body of work.
So okay, now I'm on break. I'm on
Yeah.
break, guys, because I
Well
illustrate
deserved, probably.
I illustrated 70 pages so far, and I finished the first volume, volume 1. There's volume 2, and then, I'm going to wrap it up there. Now, this is a passion project that I decided to do after I decided to um put freelance illustration on the side, because when I was freelancing, I had no time for my own projects. Because I was illustrating for other people.
Yeah.
And I realized after a few years, I don't think that is what makes me happy. Because here's the thing, guys. A lot of us love art, but you have to also know if you like making art for other people or just for yourself. And for me, after working in freelance illustration, I realized after a couple years, I don't enjoy
Yeah.
illustrating for clients most of the time. If it's a story I do not resonate with, it is so difficult. It's like someone is using my passion to torture me. It's different. For some people, they enjoy it. They enjoy, creating illustrations for clients. I enjoy it if the subject matter or the project is something I resonate with. And so that's when I, shifted and decided, okay, I'm not going to do client work anymore. I want to do work for me. And that's when I decided to do um to illustrate my graphic novel.
This actually answers partly my question. I wanted to ask about how do you keep your art alive, and that's obviously by not engaging in projects that don't speak to you and that drain you. Yeah, and I guess for some people it's a question of technicalities and like just a technique they're using or just the practical work, but for others it is about giving yourself to that illustration
Yeah,
and just not being on the market constantly,
it's a
working
hustle.
for others.
It's a
Yeah.
hustle.
So on your social media, you shared, well, as much as I've seen, you shared a story about this a graphic novel you're doing.
Yes.
And even though I'm not an illustrator, although I read comics and like large graphic novels, so to speak, since
Yes.
I was a child, and I really enjoy them, one can tell that it's incredibly intricate, incredibly detailed.
I appreciate that.
I just, it's the truth.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, like, how, um, since it's also in a way something that you have to dedicate your time to,
Yes.
do you have a routine around it,
Yes,
or
I did. I had a
because it
solid
has to come to
schedule.
life, eventually, and it's a lot to do.
Now, okay, making graphic novels is honestly, it should be team effort because I've reached a point of extreme burnout, especially if you're creating a graphic novel that's colored
Yeah.
and rendered. And so you end up not just drawing it. So okay, there's the role. I mean, if you're reading online comics like webtoons or like yeah, basically webtoons, that's the
Mm.
biggest like online comic sharing platform. When you see the credits, it is not
Yeah.
one person. Is very rarely is it one person. Sometimes there's a writer, there's a person who does sketches like with pencils and inks. Oftentimes there's a person that does the coloring and the rendering, and then there's a letterer who actually like puts the letters. Now when
And
you
then
make
there's
this
all
one
in
person,
one. Yeah.
it can be very grueling and very hard and probably unhealthy. I'll just be honest. And especially if you're trying to pump out so much pages. So if you do plan to do that, maybe just give yourself a lot of time because it is very difficult. My schedule was so it was there's an update every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I produce three fully colored, fully rendered, fully lettered pages. So I'd have, days to sketch. The script would be written, right?
Yeah.
Um, do not read my script, it's a mess. I draw it much better. Okay. Uh, sketch, ink, color and render, letter, then one day to schedule on social media. And that's not marketing. Like I didn't have the energy to market, so I just put it on some platforms. It generated, like some views. So actually, the place that I was able to push my graphic novel and get some views was actually Reddit. It was on
That's,
Reddit.
yeah,
Okay, it was on
unexpected, I
Instagram.
guess.
It's so much easier. So I'd go to comic subreddits and be like, "Hey guys," or sci-fi, like subreddits. I'd be like, "Hey guys, this is my my passion project. Check it out. This is the link." And a lot of people got interested and a lot of people subscribed at the time and I, like that was my marketing strategy. Making reels is a lot more like demanding and there's a lot of camera setup. But
Mm.
what I liked about Reddit is that you can just go right in and paste a link and be like and like just post an image and be like, "Hey guys, check out my project.
People
Hope you
would do
like it."
it. Yeah.
It's that's where I got a lot of traffic
Yeah,
from my
yeah.
graphic novel. It wasn't
That's an
Instagram.
interesting group. Yeah, yeah. No,
It
no,
was
no.
not
I get you.
Instagram. Yeah.
Besides this being a passion project of yours,
Yes.
obviously it is like the product of your passion and dedication. But what is the plan? How do you picture your reader, for instance?
I picture my reader.
How do you picture someone reading these novels? Who are these people? Do you feel it's like, is it made for someone in mind, someone specific in mind? Is it for a wide audience? Like,
It's a mature story, so
mm-hmm.
not for the children.
Okay.
Okay. But I don't have like a specific reader
Mm-hmm.
in mind, but I think anyone who is interested in a story where, well, it's a transformation story where
Mm-hmm.
like somebody.
And also your graphics, like your the way you illustrate, it is interesting. It's different, I
Thank you.
guess,
I really appreciate it.
for people to maybe for those who find your novel for the first time, this is their first graphic novel. Do you think,
Mm.
they would be bought, they would be sold on
I
it?
think definitely
Yeah.
people who are interested in more unique art styles.
Yeah.
I wasn't following a specific art style. Like most webtoons are more like, they're a lot more like anime styled. It's
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of webtoon readers come from East Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Webtoons is actually, I think it's a Korean company. And a lot of Korean readers, they love manga and manhwa, and um it that's like the base for
Yeah.
webtoon readers. And then I come in with something that's not that. So people who are interested in stories that are new, something that I think is unexpected. I don't know how to describe it
Mm.
really, but I think a person who is interested in my graphic novel is interested in looking at something that might make them feel uncomfortable and be
Mm.
okay with that, because there
Mm-hmm.
is a dark story to it. And I think that's the type of reader who would be interested in the novel.
Now, when we think of it, there are other people who are illustrators here and who are trying to like gain their track through illustration and
Yes.
just there are a lot of artists. How do you see this artistic scene in Kuwait? Do you what do you find like rewarding and supporting? Do you engage with others? How do you live as an artist in this
Here
surrounding?
in
Yeah.
so during when I was doing illustration
Mm.
full time, I participated in a lot of art markets and conventions. So I met a lot of people there, and I started actually outside of Kuwait, and then like I began to do like
Mm-hmm.
art conventions in Kuwait. And my artist friends are people that I met at, these art markets and conventions. And right now what I do is sometimes I go to these get-togethers that they do where we just sketch and talk, and like have a coffee. That's what we do. But if so you were asking like how to
I was
describe that
I was
environment?
just wondering, do you feel because we ask everyone who is involved in some
Yes.
sort of artistic activity or works within culture, um, it's always important to have a supporting environment,
Yes.
whether that comes from the fact that there are institutions that support you, that there's, let's say, cultural policies, which we know are, not in place the way we would
Yes.
want them. Then we
Yes.
want to see like intersectorial, like support for artists, maybe more residential centers, perhaps more funds to support artists. So a lot of artists tell us like what we do is like we go from like gallery to gallery or residency to residency, just making sure we know more people, we use the opportunities. Kuwait is small, so opportunities are scarce.
Oh,
So I was
I
just
was going
wondering
to
about
speak
how you
about
feel
that.
about it, or if you know something really specific you'd like to share, something you
The
enjoy.
artists the artists are supportive, the system is not.
Yeah.
So I would like literally summarize that. The artists are supportive here.
Mm.
The system, not so much. I don't think it's like it's a secret to anyone that the arts, literature, so on and so forth, if you live in this part of the world, it's there's a lot of restrictions on what you could share or not share. And for me, if we, what is the point of art if we can't talk about things that we don't want to look about, the things that make us uncomfortable? What is the point of art if we can't talk about the hard subjects? So I would describe the art scene in Kuwait. So there's like I would describe it as like like the artists themselves, and then like the official, let's say, public scene. The public scene is
Mm.
I think it's not mature. It's not mature enough, especially if we're looking at what our neighbors are doing. It's not as mature as I wish it would be. The artists are.
That's another question I wanted to ask you. Regional cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you Can you say that it exists? Do you go to
Regional
different, yeah,
cooperation.
in terms, for instance, of between, let's say, illustrators? Do you
Mm,
know any other illustrators that you appreciate and enjoy their art? Do you travel,
absolutely.
meet them, go to
Absolutely.
some conventions? How does that
Absolutely.
look?
So, also just to make, things clear, I don't really exist in the fine art gallery space.
Mm.
I'm more of an illustrator that has worked mostly in like entertainment industry illustration more than, like fine arts and galleries. So like that's my world within
Yeah.
the art the art scene. Although I do appreciate fine artists absolutely, and I do love some of their local work, but I did not practice as a fine
Yeah.
artist. Okay. I engaged with commercial art more. So basically, I think it was in the UAE where I first like had my first art convention. It was at a Middle East Comic Con in Abu Dhabi, and it was just a lot of fun. Their conventions are, there's a lot more people. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot more diversity. And also if we're talking about sales, the sales there are so much better. Like if we're
It's a
also
bigger
talking,
market. Yeah.
it's a big market.
Mm.
In Kuwait, when I would table in Kuwait versus when I would table in a place like the UAE, even in terms of like how much I would make at that convention, it was like a lot more because there was a bigger audience, a bigger population, a bigger, pool of people. And this is something that I tell, illustrators who are looking for work, table. If you want to look for clients, find an art market or a convention, table there, put your business card, make your website, put out your art, put it in a catalog, sell prints of it. People will approach you and be like I've had people that are like, I have a book, I want to like collaborate
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
you. I have this, I want to collaborate. Actually, I really like your style. I want to do this with you. This is like literally the best way to network if you have no connections. If you have no connections, which like I didn't have any connections, I put, I would table, and then I would have all these people that would come and be interested in my work, and we'd exchange numbers, we'd exchange emails, and a lot of opportunities happened, through that versus cold emailing,
No,
right?
of course. And that's actually very, very encouraging to hear.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that's like my biggest like takeaway from my experience when I was like doing art full time.
Um, I was also wondering, if you were to give, we don't like doing that, any of us, I think, but if you were to give advices to, like, people who would just kind of have something maybe stored in their drawer,
Hmm.
want to start maybe working on something, or are sketching and drawing and like hoping that the world would see it at some point. Is bravery involved? What is that one thing that pushes you forward to share your art with the world?
Well, first I want to say if you don't want to share your art with the world, you don't have to. So
Absolutely.
there's, like people make art for different reasons. Not everything. If you are doing it for yourself, you are not forced to show it to an audience. It's we don't have to. There's a lot of vulnerability when you create art, and some people just they don't feel safe enough to share that, or it's made for them, not for people. Not everything is meant for the public. Not everything is meant to be consumed by audiences, by capitalism.
We
Okay.
discuss a lot here at this podcast
Yes.
how you don't have to create in order to exist, not each one of us has to create
we
something and put it out
we
there.
we don't have to be like these artists that constantly create to appease audiences. Art, it means different things for different people. For some
Yeah.
people, it's a means to put bread on the table.
Yeah.
For other people, it's literally their oxygen and their happy place and their free time. And for some people, it's their personal sacred healing. And I can't like, just because somebody makes great art, I can't be like, you have to put this out. Like, you shouldn't put it. If they don't want to put it out, that is completely valid and understandable, because art means different things to different people
For those who still want to do it and will be listening to you and
who want
admiring
to but are a bit
admiring how
shy.
yes.
Mm,
I think it's a lovely info you shared about markets.
yes, I
How
was I was gonna say
and they are actually, from my experience, and I am like a person who comes to see others at the market and
yes.
buy
There you
something I
go.
like. It's an amazing, it's good energy. It's
Yes,
good energy. People who are happy to share. It's lovely to see the abundance of work done by people, creative
yes.
work.
Okay, here's the thing, if they're so shy. Okay,
Mm,
here's an idea, guys. But that is if you have a little bit of money to hire someone for a day or two.
okay.
You table at an art market or convention. Let's say you're a shy person, you don't want to be there like
Mm,
advertising for your art. Even though it would be awesome if you did, you can get a friend or hire someone to like stand there and sell those prints. But if you do that, you will be missing out on the opportunity of actually
yeah,
networking with people. And usually, like audiences, when they come across like artwork that they like, they want to talk to the artist because
yeah.
some of them like they want to make opportunities, with
Yes.
the artist. So I really encourage putting yourself out there by tabling or going to, these markets and conventions, because with social media, it's so distant. Like it's through a screen and you have to appease an algorithm and the connection is just not the same. When I'm like, for me, when I'm at a convention and I have my art on a table and somebody comes and goes like, "Oh my God, I love your work." It is worth a million likes on Instagram. Likes, they're so meaningless sometimes. But when somebody comes and says that they really like this and they really want it and they want to put it in their bedroom or they want to put it wherever, it is so much more meaningful. I don't care about likes, I don't care about followers. You realize how meaningless social media is
Mm.
when you're in those spaces.
Do you have people interpret your art differently? For instance, see something in your art
I
that you
encourage
haven't.
it. I
Yes.
encourage it.
Good.
I encourage that. When people come up to me and they're like, "This illustration, what does it mean?" And I go like, "What does it mean to you? Like,
Mm,
what about your perspective?"
mm-hmm.
Because like people see different things. And I have my own story, but if somebody sees another story in that illustration, who am I to take it away? Like that's their story with the illustration.
Um, I need to cover all the bases that we've mentioned in the beginning because I think it's so interesting. Suddenly, we go to Instagram, and for us who are not involved in your daily life, so this is how we follow you. And suddenly, Reem is a skater.
Oh,
Is it
absolutely.
suddenly?
It's not suddenly. So if we're talking about skating,
Mm-hmm.
it was a sport that I wanted to participate in since I was a child. Like this before fencing. Like when I was young, I did not
Yeah.
daydream about fencing, I'll be honest. But I did daydream about figure skating. And again, at that time, there was no official body for girls to participate in figure skating. I think an official body for figure skaters have like the Kuwait Winter Club, I
Mm.
think formed I think in 2017. I could be wrong, but it was quite recent. I think maybe 2015, 2017.
And
I'm
they're
not
doing
sure.
quite well now, right?
They're Well, I'm not
Okay.
involved with the main team, but I
Mm.
but it is a body that
It's there.
is
Yeah.
new and
Mm.
exists. I can't really, and I'm new in the sport, so I can't really speak on how well they're
Of
performing.
course.
I've been skating for 5 months, guys.
But already competing.
For fun. I am competing for fun, and
Yeah.
more so like to perform and to tell a story,
Mm-hmm.
more so than to like perform technical uh moves
Yes.
in my programs. I really love skating because here's the thing. It's there's music, there's costumes, there's a story. It's art. Okay? It's like art sports meeting together and I'm like,
Yeah. It's
this
your
is for me.
graphic novel
This is for
coming
me.
to life.
And
Yeah.
I really loved it. And I always wanted to do it. And this year, um I had, and this is an interesting story, but I have to make it short. I developed a chronic illness that's like gastrointestinal, and the medicine was not working, the pills were not working, nothing was really helping me. I obliterated my body with medicines, and nothing brought me symptomatic relief until I skated. Sorry, like I know this sounds like some crazy um thing, but it's true. A lot of when I was going through a very difficult time this year, and meds were not curing me.
Mm.
And then I sat down with myself, and I remember being in so much pain in my I had, chronic esophagitis, so much pain in my back and in my chest, and I was like, I'm already in pain. What is something I really want to do? And I literally like dug into my childhood self, because I was at a point where it's like I just want to do what kid me wanted to do, because at this point I just don't care. I just want to do what I want to do. And I was like, skating. I was like, why don't you actually look into skating? That skating is now official in Kuwait. You've seen pictures. Why don't you look into it? And then I looked into it, and I met my now coach, Miriam Rafai. Hi, Miriam.
Shout out to
Shout out
Maria.
to Miriam, who is just as crazy as I am, which is amazing. I really
I think we can pick up the energy from the screen.
absolutely, because she is on board with all of these creative
Mm.
decisions, with in skating. She loves it. She's a nerd like that. She's a punk like that.
I like that.
So I met her, and I really appreciate that the hard work that she puts into, helping me in the sport as an adult beginner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who's like the 7-year-olds are beating me, and I'm the 30-year-old standing there, like,
Yeah.
it takes, you really have to humble yourself when you're in these kind of spaces. Like, the kids be skating circles around me,
Mm.
and you have to be there and be like, it's okay, as long as the kids are happy and I'm happy,
Yeah.
that's what matters. And you're not competing when you do sports for fun, especially
Mm-hmm.
at this age. You're just doing it for yourself. Yes, I'm going to competitions, but
Mm.
like, it's for me. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about my competitors.
It just ended, right? The competition you went to in
Yes.
Thailand.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay,
And
Bangkok, yes.
and I saw in one of the segments you did, there's a sword. So
Oh, yes, I had to bring in
and I thought she
fencing.
has to bring her
And that
other
was
sides.
Khalid's sword. That's
Yeah.
Khalid's coaching sword, and I
Oh,
had to bring it.
that's beautiful.
I was playing Alicia, who is a character from a video game called Claire Obscura Expedition 33.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game that came out this year. It was developed by a small French studio
Mm-hmm.
that had no experience in making games, and it was so beautifully made. I think
Mm-hmm.
it got so much awards, from what I know, and everyone was talking about it like it was amazing, and it really is a beautiful game. And one of the main characters is Mael, or Alicia, and she was the character that I played,
Mm-hmm.
in the competition. And she had a blade, she had a sword, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I used to be a
Yeah,
fencer.
this
I
is
got a
not a
blade.
coincidence. Yeah.
And so, like, I got it, and my coach was so on board with the idea, and she
Yeah.
was like, "We should do this." That's why I like her. She's on board with this crazy stuff. So yeah.
Or maybe just normal stuff,
Yeah.
from straight from the heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a great story. And you were there for a number of days, and actually, you've skated and danced a lot of different segments,
Three
right?
programs,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
How
did three.
was the overall experience for you? Not just, and now I'm asking you also as a previous
Athlete.
fencer and athlete.
It
Yeah.
is healing in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, my journey as a competitive fencer was so it was so difficult, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of unsupportive coaching, and it was a very male dominated sport. Figure skating is not.
Yeah.
Figure skating is a female dominated
Yeah.
sport. So I
Yeah.
didn't have to fight to exist. I didn't have to fight to exist. In figure skating, I just
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to fight. And I had a coach that was so happy to see me succeed. I didn't have a coach that told me that I didn't matter, and whatever it is that I did, it's just it's a privilege, not a right.
Mm.
So now when I'm when I do figure skating, or when I do skating, and I have a coach, who's there for me, and really is trying to help me, and it's such a supportive environment, and I get to do this really beautiful thing, and there's music and characters and storytelling. It's so healing, man.
So
It is
different.
so
Yeah.
healing. It is so good. I still carry, a part of my fencing self, and my relationship with fencing has become positive when I became a academy
Yeah.
co-owner. Honestly, like, that is where my positive experience with fencing is, and I want to bring that positivity, or that safe space, to my fencers right now. Absolutely.
I am so happy you shared that with us.
Okay,
And
thank you.
it's so good that things have sort of not circled back to what you were initially bringing to the game for yourself, but hopefully also for the environment, for the society, that change must eventually happen.
Yes.
And this is why, among other things, we are sharing your story. I'm wondering, with all the talents you have, all the jobs you're doing, all the passions you're pursuing, how do you rest? And what is rest for you?
Okay. Now, okay, so we're at the end of the year, 2026. I'll tell you what the plan is. The plan is no plan.
Okay.
The plan
Is it the
so
first time in life?
I think in a very I my 20s were chaos.
Mm,
Clearly.
yeah.
My 20s were
We're rooting
chaos.
for
That,
you.
you know, it was a lot of chaos. It was a lot of, you know, trying to achieve certain things and fighting through fire.
Mm,
Right now I'm in a you know, place in my life. The only thing that I want to plan for is my chai halib in the morning. That's my
yeah.
favorite drink. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
not coffee. Um, Basically, that's the only thing I'm planning for. I was like, what's for breakfast tomorrow morning? That's chai halib.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Mm,
as far as I'm planning. Yes, I do have like Reem being Reem. She does have like big plans, but she's telling them, no, no,
yeah.
not right now. Just rest. Just see where life takes me now. I want to see what happens to me when I don't plan anything. When I just live, I'll see where life takes me right now.
You must let us know.
Yeah.
Um, and connected to that, usually the question about plans, which sometimes, means something very simple, like you can find me here, or, you can check out
Yes.
my
Yes.
art there. But really, for the people who would, so we mentioned the House of Fencing, which is a beautiful academy for fencers, boys and girls alike. Where can people find your art and check out your art?
Well, right now you can check out my art on Instagram,
Mm.
or if you want to
And
read.
it's not, it's under, we
Yes.
want to hear the name because people,
Oh,
if
that's
for those who don't know
Rima
you,
Starry Light.
okay,
That's my username.
yeah,
Ryma Starry Light. Okay.
okay.
So that's where you can find me. You
Mm.
can also find my graphic novel on Webtoon and also Tapas. That's also another comic hosting platform that I put
Mhm.
my graphic novel on. That's basically where my art exists right now.
And skating continues?
Skating continues. You
Mm.
know, skating for me, skating is more like my gym. Like people go to Pilates, I go to skating. I can't do gym for some reason. I have to have a sport like that's in which I'm like trying to learn a new skill in. So that's my gym, is to skate.
Well, you have fooled me. I've seen you skating on videos, and it looks like you've been doing it forever. I'm not an
No.
expert, but looks amazing. Looks
I'm
very
oh my gosh.
beautiful.
No, my coach would nitpick and make me feel like I'm a
Mm.
baby not in fencing, in figure
Yeah,
skating. She nitpicks at my skating. I mean, she's a coach.
yeah.
And so like I don't think it's that good, but thank you so much.
But coach and coach, that must be an interesting exchange.
Yes, yes, she is a
Mm.
coach and I used to coach in another sport.
Yeah. That's a bit of a clash. I love that you
Yes.
have other parts that align beautifully.
Yes, it
Yeah.
has it helps me, and you know we also share our experience as coaches as
Mm.
well, and it's quite different when both of you guys are adults. When you're an adult who's also a student who's starting out as the dynamics a little bit different than,
Mm.
let's say, you have an adult coach and a 7-year-old skater
Yeah.
or athlete. It's the dynamic is different, so like our conversations are a lot more mature, and also because both of us are coaches. Sometimes, well, I leave the big chunk for her, but sometimes I chime in and be like, Coach, I think we should refine this a little more. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes she would agree with me and sometimes she would not. So,
Mm.
but regardless, I have to listen to her because she's my coach. Right. Yeah.
It's a great story, really, and hopefully very inspirational for a
Yes.
lot of people who will listen or watch. Reem, thank you so much. Our
Thank
time
you
flew
so
really
much,
fast,
Ksenia.
and thank you for sharing so honestly and in a lot of ways also uh, sharing raw feelings of the experiences you've had. It was lovely having you today,
It was
and
so much fun,
we
you
hope
know.
to
Yeah.
see you soon.
Inshallah, you
Thank
will.
you again.
Thank you so much.